Since the invention of the aircraft, the way we travel the globe has been totally revolutionized. No longer do we depend on slow-moving ships. Today, even the farthest corners of the Earth can be reached in under 24 hours. Over time, engineers have crafted a mind-blowing variety of airplanes, each tailored for a unique mission, whether it's carrying hundreds of passengers, executing high-stakes military operations, or pushing the boundaries of innovation altogether. So buckle up, lock your tray table in place, and pay close attention to the safety briefing, because we're about to take off into the world of the 15 most incredible airplanes ever built. Number Quince, Gossamer Albatross. The Gossamer Albatross doesn't fly on fuel, batteries, or solar power. It runs on sheer human grit. Designed by American engineer Paul McCready, this paper-thin winged marvel took flight in 1979, powered entirely by one man's pedaling legs. Built for the second Kremer Prize challenge, the goal wasn't just to lift off, but to fly across the English Channel using only human strength. And it did exactly that. On June 12, 1979, cyclist pilot Brian Allen crossed 22.2 miles of open water in just under 3 hours. The plane itself looked like a dragonfly with a gym membership. 34 feet long, nearly 98 feet wide, and with a top speed of just 18 miles per hour, assuming the pilot hadn't skipped leg day. Its lightweight frame was made from carbon fiber, plastic film, and dreams. Though it only made a handful of flights, it proved something monumental. With the right design and a lot of pedaling, even humans can take to the sky without burning a drop of fuel. The prize? Well, $140,000 and a permanent place in aviation history. It's pretty high. Number 14, Rutan Boomerang. At first glance, it looks like a mistake, like someone built it with leftover parts. But every strange angle and off-center wing has a purpose. Designed by legendary aerospace maverick Burt Rutan, this asymmetric twin-engine plane flips traditional design on its head to solve a serious problem in small aircraft: what happens when one engine fails. In most twin-prop planes, that's a death sentence. But the Boomerang, it flies just fine with one engine down. It has seating for 5, stretches 30 feet long with a 36-foot wingspan, and can reach speeds up to 311 miles per hour with a range of 2,363 miles. Rutan based it loosely on the Beechcraft Baron 58, but turned everything inside out to create better balance, stability, and safety. Even the engines are tuned differently, with the right side pushing out more horsepower than the left. It first flew in 1996, and while only one exists, it's a good reminder that sometimes the weirdest designs are the smartest. Number Dressen, Boeing 747. This beast of an airplane didn't just reshape aviation, it completely changed how the world moved. Introduced in 1970, it wasn't even Boeing's original idea, but Pan Am's bold demand for a passenger jet more than twice the size of their existing 707. What followed was nothing short of an engineering marvel. Nicknamed the Jumbo Jet, it was the first wide-body aircraft, built with 4 massive engines, capable of carrying over 350 passengers. It featured a partial second deck, not because it was needed, but because Boeing expected the plane to become a cargo hauler once supersonic jets took over. That never happened. Instead, the 747 became the symbol of affordable long-distance air travel. It brought far-off cities within reach for everyday people and helped shrink the globe like never before. With over 1,500 built and each costing around $200 million, it became the beating heart of international aviation for decades. Few aircraft have had a greater impact or left a more iconic silhouette against the sky, like this one. Number 12, Solar Impulse. It doesn't run on fuel, and it doesn't need a drop of oil. The Solar Impulse was built to prove one thing: the skies don't belong solely to gas-guzzling machines. Developed by a Swiss team with an obsession for sustainability, the goal was to fly around the world, powered entirely by sunlight. No fuel tanks, Just solar cells, 17,248 of them, stretching across a 236-foot wingspan. The first prototype launched in 2009, but it was Solar Impulse 2 that made history. After 16 months, 26,000 miles, and countless hours in the cockpit, it pulled it off. 1 seat, 4 electric motors, a top speed of just 87 miles per hour, and yet it shook the aviation world. It's not built for speed, it never was, but it's built for vision. The hope is that this tech becomes the launch pad for something much bigger, aircraft that ditch fossil fuels without sacrificing power or scale. In an industry addicted to jet fuel, Solar Impulse dared to fly against the wind, and it didn't just survive, it soared. Number 11. SR-21 Blackbird. The Blackbird didn't fly through the skies, it sliced through them. Developed by Lockheed's top-secret Skunk Works in the 1960s, this reconnaissance jet operated where others couldn't follow 85,000 feet in the air and at 3 times the speed of sound. It still holds the record for the fastest air-breathing aircraft ever built. Only 32 were made, and they were used by the U.S. Air Force from 1964 to 1998. Enemy radar couldn't track it, missiles couldn't catch it, and not a single one was ever shot down. Built for stealth and speed, the Blackbird was a spy's best friend, equipped with state-of-the-art surveillance tech, infrared sensors, airborne radar, and electronic intel systems. It rarely took off with full tanks. Mid-air refueling was standard to protect its brakes and extend its range. It wasn't just advanced for its time, it still feels futuristic now. The SR-71 wasn't just fast, it was untouchable, rewriting the rules of reconnaissance and proving that altitude and speed are the best defenses. Number 10. Taylor Aerocar. Long before flying cars became a Silicon Valley fantasy, the Taylor Aerocar was already on the road and in the air. Built in 1949 by Aerocar International, this bizarre hybrid looked like a cartoon daydream, but it was very real. The wings folded neatly along the sides, and in about 5 minutes, your highway commuter turned into a fully certified aircraft. It had a modest road speed of 60 miles per hour, but could hit 110 miles per hour once airborne. Only 6 prototypes were ever completed, but they were functional enough to get certified by the CAA in 1956. One even remained flight-ready well into the 2000s. Measuring over 21 feet long with a wingspan of 34 feet, it had a 300-mile flight range, just enough to skip past a traffic jam and touch down in another city. It never reached mass production, mostly because no one could figure out how to sell it to a public still nervous about parallel parking. Still, the Taylor Aerocar proved one thing: flying cars aren't sci-fi, they're just waiting on the right moment. Alright guys, now let's head over to Number 9. Eurocopter X3. The Eurocopter X3 didn't just push the limits of what a helicopter could do, it straight up obliterated them. Created by Airbus Helicopters, this one-off experimental aircraft fused a traditional helicopter rotor with airplane-style propellers bolted to short wings. The result? A hybrid beast that flew faster than anything else in its class. On a test run in 2013, the X3 clocked a jaw-dropping 293 miles per hour in level flight, leaving the old helicopter speed record in the dust. What made it work was the ability to slow down the main rotor, which cut drag dramatically. It didn't need the complex auto-stabilization systems used in other choppers. Either the side propellers balanced the aircraft on their own. The X3 operated with a 2-person crew and cruised at 10,000 feet like it was nothing. Though it never went into mass production, it served as a proof of concept for what high-speed rotorcraft could be. It now rests at the French Air and Space Museum in Le Bourget, a sleek, sharp reminder of what happens when engineers get bored of the rules. Number 8. Concorde. This wasn't a plane, it was an event. Born from a British-French partnership, it debuted in 1976 as the world's most ambitious commercial airliner. With a cruising speed of Mach 2.04, it cut the flight time between London and New York to under 3 hours. From nose to tail, the Concorde was built for speed. The droop nose design gave pilots visibility on the runway, then tilted up mid-flight for streamlined performance. Its narrow fuselage wasn't about comfort, it was about slicing through the atmosphere like a dart. With a maximum capacity of just 128 passengers, the Concorde wasn't for the average traveler. Tickets cost a small fortune, and the noise, fuel consumption, and environmental costs eventually sealed its fate. After a tragic accident and rising costs, the last Concorde flight landed in 2003. But for nearly 3 decades, it offered a glimpse of a future where time zones were suggestions. Supersonic travel came and went, but nothing has ever replaced the mystique of the Concorde. What do you think about this beauty? Number 7. V22 Osprey. The V-22 Osprey doesn't care about categories. It's part helicopter, part airplane, and all about versatility. Developed by Boeing and Bell for the U.S. military, it was designed to do what most aircraft couldn't: take off vertically like a chopper, fly like a jet, and adapt to missions that would usually require 2 separate machines. Its first flight was in 1989, but it wasn't until 2007 that it entered full service. Since then, it's been deployed everywhere from Iraq to Afghanistan, proving its worth in combat and humanitarian operations alike. With a crew of 4, room for 32 troops, and the ability to haul 20,000 pounds of gear, including vehicles, it's a flying workhorse. The twin rotors tilt forward for flight, allowing it to hit 316 miles per hour with a 450-mile range. The rotors fold for compact storage, and it packs serious firepower too, with mounted machine guns and miniguns. The Osprey wasn't just a clever idea, it became a dependable force across modern battlefields. Number 6. Cirrus SR22. If you're the kind of person who skips traffic by taking to the skies, the Cirrus SR22 might already be on your radar. Released in 2001, it didn't just sell, it dominated. By 2003, it was the best-selling private aircraft in the world, and it's held that title ever since. More than 6,000 units have been delivered, making it one of the most popular general aviation aircraft of the 21st century. This sleek 4-seater isn't just about performance, it's about safety and style. With a cruising speed of 211 miles per hour and a range of over 1,000 miles, it's more than capable of cross-country hops. And the safety game? Next level. It's one of the only aircraft in its class with a built-in ballistic parachute system, a literal parachute for the entire plane. That system alone has saved over 160 lives. With modern avionics, a glass cockpit, and optional turbocharging, the SR22 isn't just a plane, it's a lifestyle upgrade. For personal aviation, it's as close to a perfect balance as you'll get. Number 5. Rutan VariEze. The Rutan VariEze wasn't made in a factory, it was made in garages, hangars, and dreams. Designed in 1975 by aerospace innovator Burt Rutan, this canard-configured aircraft flipped traditional design on its head. Its pusher propeller sat in the rear, and its tiny front wings handled pitch control. With a nose that doubled as landing support when parked, it was weird, clever, and wildly efficient. Measuring just over 14 feet long with a 22-foot wingspan, it seated 2 people in tandem and reached speeds of nearly 200 miles per hour. The range stretched 850 miles, more than enough for cross-state hops. Rutan didn't just sell planes, he sold the blueprints. Over 400 VariEzes were built by passionate hobbyists who wanted to fly something personal, economical, and utterly unique. It became a symbol of the DIY spirit in aviation and paved the way for countless home-built aircraft designs. The VariEze wasn't just a small plane, it was a big idea that flying didn't have to belong to corporations, it could belong to you. Number 4. F-22 Raptor. Well, between 2005 and 2011, the F-22 Raptor didn't just enter the skies, it owned them like its own. Designed by Lockheed Martin, this aircraft blended stealth with unshakable speed and unmatched agility. With just 187 units built, it became the elite spearhead of American air dominance. Every inch of the Raptor was engineered for control. It could cruise at Mach 1.5 without afterburners, climb to 50,000 feet, and still remain invisible to radar thanks to its passive detection systems. Its cockpit featured a full glass interface, advanced avionics, and targeting systems precise enough to drop a GBU-32 JDAM from 50,000 feet at supersonic speed and strike a moving target 24 miles away. 3 hidden weapon bays gave it the flexibility to adapt to virtually any mission, air-to-air or air-to-ground. At $150 million apiece, it wasn't cheap, but nothing that dominant ever is. The F-22 didn't just raise the bar, it redefined it, ensuring America's air superiority wasn't just maintained but sharpened into something lethal. Number 3. BD-5J Microjet. Compact, sleek, and outrageously fast, the BD-5J Microjet looked like something pulled straight from a spy film, and it basically was. Introduced in 1971 by designer Jim Bede, this tiny plane was sold as a DIY kit, letting buyers build their very own jet from home. Powered by a 70-horsepower engine, it measured just under 14 feet long with a 21-foot wingspan and space for only one person tucked into a reclined seat. But don't let the size fool you. It can reach 232 miles per hour and fly nearly 1,000 miles. The lightest model weighed only 359 pounds, making it the smallest and lightest jet-powered aircraft ever to take off. Around 150 kits were produced, but manufacturing challenges eventually grounded the company. Still, about 30 of them remain flight-ready to this day. Had the venture survived, it might have redefined personal air travel. The BD-5J wasn't just a passion project, it was a wild glimpse into a future that nearly happened but slipped through the cracks. Number 2. Super Guppy. You won't forget the first time you see it. It's not pretty, sleek, or fast, but it wasn't built for looks. This colossal cargo aircraft was designed to haul the unhaulable, with its absurdly bulbous fuselage and a nose that opens like a garage door. The Guppy was tailor-made for missions that regular planes simply couldn't handle, like transporting massive rocket parts for NASA's Apollo missions. Only 5 were ever built, using the bones of the Boeing 377 Stratocruiser as the starting point. The final version measured 141 feet in length and had an internal cargo diameter of 25 feet. Despite looking like a flying whale, it could still cruise at 300 miles per hour and carry up to 54,000 pounds of cargo. 4 of the 5 are now museum pieces, but 1 remains in active service. NASA still uses it to ferry spacecraft components across the U.S. It may look ridiculous on the tarmac, but in the air, the Super Guppy is an absolute heavyweight champion of logistics. Number 9. Voyager. It wasn't built in a massive hangar, and it didn't roll off some military production line. The Voyager started as a sketch on a napkin, and it ended up flying around the world without a single fuel stop. In 1986, pilots Dick Rutan and Jana Yeager lifted off from Edwards Air Force Base in a plane that looked more like a science project than a record breaker. But after 9 days, 3 minutes and 44 seconds in the air, they proved everyone wrong. The Voyager covered 26,366 miles non-stop, no refueling, no landing, just raw endurance. Built from fiberglass and carbon fiber, it weighed around 2,250 pounds fully loaded with fuel and had a wingspan stretching nearly 111 feet. The design wasn't built for comfort, it was engineered to push the limits of human and mechanical endurance. Flying at an average of 122 miles per hour at 11,000 feet, it rewrote what aviation could be. The Voyager didn't just break records, it redefined them. Proof that radical ideas, no matter how fragile they look, can change history. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content just like this. Thanks a bunch for hanging with us, guys, and we'll see you pretty soon in the next one.